Today, our story is an old horror tale, the kind you might hear from your grandmother, or one of those stories told among friends while camping in the desert at night as you light a fire to make tea and coffee. But before we begin, if you're a fan of strange, mysterious, and terrifying things, you're in the right place. Don't forget to like, share, and turn on all notifications so you never miss an upload. And by the way, this is my Facebook page. Let's begin the horror. And it's best if you wear headphones and turn off the lights. Let's go. How are you doing, everyone? I hope you're always well. On the afternoon of Sunday, February 25th, 1855, there was a 48-year-old woman named Hannah Rinson walking briskly through a street in Sheffield, England, accompanied by her husband and a group of their friends. The group was completely silent. They were deeply afraid of what was about to happen. Behind Hannah and her friends, on the same road, was a slightly larger group of people walking at the same pace, heading to the same place. But that second group wasn't planning to enter the building. They were only there to witness what might happen. Hannah and her friends were very bothered by the presence of this second group following them, but they knew there was nothing they could do. So they kept walking silently. As she walked, Hannah couldn't help but think, how did I end up in this situation? At that time, Sheffield was a large industrial city filled with metal factories, attracting many workers. As the population grew, the city began building low-quality, crowded, and cheap housing. Hannah and her husband lived in one of these cramped apartments and worked at one of the metal factories, which made their lives tough and full of hardship. Things got even worse recently when their eldest son died in a coal mining accident, an event that emotionally shattered both parents, especially Hannah. She fell into deep grief, became isolated, going to work all day, then returning straight to her room, praying and trying to contact her deceased son. At first, her husband did the same, burying himself in work to avoid his sorrow. But slowly, he began to return to his normal life and encouraged Hannah to go back to church and socialize. She listened to his advice and started attending church, making new friends and regaining some social support. But that support led her to a terrifying event that took place in the streets of Sheffield. As she walked briskly alongside her husband and church friends, that second, larger group of people still followed them. Among Hannah's group were her husband, her close church friend, Harriet Ward, and 3 members of the Favell family, Mr. and Mrs. Favell, and Mrs. Favell's sister. They were all heading to an apartment in the Capelin district, where Harriet and the Favell family lived together. Both groups belonged to the same church and had just 2 hours earlier engaged in a heated debate there about what to do with the basement in the Favell family's apartment. Some believed the basement was dangerous and should be sealed off or even have the house demolished. When that opinion started gaining support, the Favells and Harriet became upset and left. Hannah, her husband, and a few supporters followed. They didn't have a clear plan, but felt they needed to go to the house and protect it from any actions by others. When they reached the apartment, they locked the door and sat inside in silence. After a while, someone said, We have to do something about the basement. Otherwise, the crowd outside might do something. Hannah walked to the window and saw the crowd trying to peer inside through the basement's small window. She angrily shut the curtain. Then Mr. Favell said, "We've got just an hour before dark. We need to go into the basement now. We can't be down there at night." Everyone nodded in agreement. Mr. Favell asked Hannah's husband to come with him, and though hesitant, he agreed. The two men cautiously went down. The only sounds from below were the scraping of tools digging. The digging went on for 2 hours. They found nothing. Meanwhile, the crowd outside grew even larger. Life in 19th century Sheffield was hard and uneventful, so this unusual gathering became a major event. No one left. By midnight, it was impossible for Hannah and her husband to leave the house. Mrs. Favell was worried the crowd might try to break in. She had an idea: to cover the small basement window from the inside. She asked her sister to go down, but the sister refused. Everyone began arguing about who would go. Finally, Hannah shouted, "I'll do it." She grabbed the curtain and rod and went down before anyone could stop her. Everyone waited at the top of the stairs. A moment later, she shouted from below that she was done. Then silence. Seconds later, a blood-curdling scream pierced the air. It was Hannah. Then, silence again. Her husband rushed downstairs and found her collapsed on the ground. She was breathing, but unresponsive. He carried her back up. Harriet brought a damp cloth and placed it on her forehead. But as she did, she glanced into the basement and froze in terror, fainting on the spot. Weeks earlier, strange sounds had started coming from the basement. At first, they thought it was nothing, but the noises worsened at night. On February 24th, Harriet saw a ghost, an old woman in a white robe, pointing at a spot on the basement floor. In a dream, the ghost told her she had been murdered, her gold stolen, and her body buried in that spot. That dream was what triggered the church debate and the group's decision to protect the apartment, while the others wanted to see a confrontation with the ghost. When Hannah regained consciousness, she said she saw the ghost standing right in front of her in the basement, and it suddenly charged toward her, passing through her body, which made her lose consciousness. As for Harriet, when she placed the cloth on Hannah, she saw the ghost walking up the stairs. Then it removed its robe, revealing a body covered in wounds and stab marks. Harriet screamed and fainted. Just 12 hours later, Hannah died. The coroner couldn't determine a cause of death. His report simply read, "She died from fear." After this mysterious death, Harriet and the Favell family left the apartment, and many other residents in the building moved out as well, too terrified of the basement. And with that, everything nearly came to an end. If you enjoyed this story or this video, don't forget to like and share it from all your social media accounts. Until I see you again in new stories and videos, I wish you a good night and goodbye.